Hi, everyone. So as I mentioned, my name is Thribu Cheba, and I'm the digital marketing lead here at Reflic. Thanks for joining us today. Please feel free to enter your questions in the question box, and we'll answer them in the Q&A section. As you know, the main feature of today's event is a panel discussion between very successful agency recruiters. I know everyone is very excited to hear them speak, so I'll keep my introduction brief. I want to give an introduction to talent crowdsourcing to those of you who are not fully aware of its capabilities. So let's dive in and look at the way crowdsourcing transforms industries. So do these look familiar? This is what music used to look like before crowdsourcing. Record companies had a monopoly on all the music that was produced. It was hard enough for really talented musicians to get the attention of a music executive. And when artists made it, the record company owned their music. Then crowdsourcing platforms came onto the music scene and transformed the way music was done. They made it possible for artists to free themselves from record companies. The overall benefit for artists was additional channels for their music, thus additional revenue. With crowdsourcing, earning business today is literally just a click away. It is always available. Crowdsourcing gives participants more vetted clients. Participants don't have to worry about going out and finding clients. Becoming approved vendors, they don't have to worry about getting enough work to meet costs. They can even use crowdsourcing platforms as additional channels for more jobs, thus accessing more revenue streams. Talent crowdsourcing is crowdsourcing applied to talent acquisition, particularly recruitment. Simply put, a community of recruiting agencies submits candidates to employers. At the core of talent crowdsourcing is jobs on demand for you or your recruiting agency to work on. No more sales overhead, no more bench recruiters. Talent crowdsourcing platforms bring awesome jobs to you. Most talent crowdsourcing platforms build and manage relationships with employers. The administrative burden involved in following up with clients for feedback is crippling for recruiting firms. You have to spend time and money on administrative tasks like following up with employers for feedback or figuring out must-haves and good-to-haves. Talent crowdsourcing also helps you optimize your firm's recruiter utilization. No more bench recruiters. Your recruiting firm has most likely gone through slow times. There is a fine balance between the number of jobs your firm is working on and the number of recruiters working for your firm. Talent crowdsourcing platforms provide you the jobs to correct that balancing act. So I have a quick question for everyone. So if you look at your screen, you'll see the question pop up. I'd like to learn more about what your understanding is of talent crowdsourcing. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to answer that question that is on your screen right now. Just waiting for a few more people. We have almost 80% of everyone answering the question. All right. Thanks everyone for answering that question. Appreciate it. So what is Reflic? Who are we? Reflic is a talent crowdsourcing platform. We are based out of Somerset, New Jersey, close to New York City. We currently work with nearly 300 employers. At any given time, we have over $2 million available in placement fees for our agency partners. We work with a variety of companies across industries, including some of the leading names in the Fortune 250 and Fortune 500. Chances are, if you can name a functional role, we've got jobs for that role. With Reflic, all you have to do is just sign up, choose the jobs you want to work on, start recruiting, and earn the full placement fee for each hire. Recruiting is a people's business, so values are important. At Reflic, we stand by a set of values that helps ensure our recruiting partners are highly successful. We believe agencies should not wait to become approved vendors. Becoming an approved vendor can be frustrating. You can start recruiting as soon as you sign up with Replik. Our platform of Fortune 500 companies are determined to fill their positions. Recruit with confidence. Your candidate database is confidential and only you have access to it. You retain the ownership of the candidate that you submit. Make the most of your candidates. You have candidates and we have jobs. Finally, never be left in the dark. We update you at every step of the recruiting process and maintain full transparency. So I have one last question. I'd like to learn what you have, what your understanding is of Replik and the benefits that Replik provides. So if you take a second, the question just popped up on your screen. Take a minute. We have about 90% of the people that just answered. I'll give the rest of you a couple of seconds. Do you understand the benefits of Replik for your recruiting agency? The choices are yes or no. We would love to hear your response. This helps us build out better content. Great. Thank you, everyone, for answering that question as well. So if everyone is set, let's begin with our panel discussion. We have on the phone with us Eric, Jennifer, and Marzette. Give me 1 second. Hi, Eric, Jennifer, and Marzette. Can you hear us?
Yes. Happy Thursday.
Great.
Greetings, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
So Eric is a 20 plus years of experience in the recruiting industry. Most people, by that definition, call him a veteran recruiter. He's placed over 1,000 candidates and is one of our brightest and most successful recruiters on the platform. Jennifer currently has over 10 years of experience, has placed candidates for us. And finally, Marzette is the Director of Operations and Recruiting at one of the most successful healthcare staffing firms in Chicago. So without any further ado, let's begin with Eric. Thanks a lot, Eric, for joining us. If you want to take a minute and sort of walk us through your background, what you did before Replik, and what drove you to join Replik.
All right. Well, thank you for this invitation. It is an honor. As the dashboard mentions, I've been doing this a long time, and I did indeed put a lot of people to work. As in talent acquisition, project work, full time, kind of did the gamut in my career. Essentially, what happened was one day my contract was wrapping up, and I looked at my wife, and she said, "What are you gonna do now?" And I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "Go on your own." So I said, "Okay." So I went on my own, and here we are. And then, as someone that starts, his or her own, independent recruiting, you kind of, search for alternatives and methods. Because my skills is almost exclusively on the fulfillment channels. And then through a former manager of mine, I heard about Replik and just followed through. And that's about a year and a half ago. And frankly, I'm glad I did. So here we are.
Thank you so much, Eric. A lot of our most successful recruiters are freelance, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
No problem.
So without any further ado, let's talk to Jennifer. Jennifer has a tremendous amount of experience with agencies as well as on the corporate side. So Jennifer, thanks for joining us today. It's lovely to have you. If you want to take a few moments to describe your background and sort of what drove you to join the Replik platform and make a lot of placements with us.
Sure, Treby. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I stumbled into recruiting, as you and I, Treby, have discussed before, and found that I loved it. I worked for a global recruiting firm, transitioned to a national recruiting firm, which was a fantastic experience. After that, I went into corporate recruiting. And I'm sure everyone has experienced a lack of process, a lack of procedure within the corporate world. Decided to go out on my own, much like Eric, and I had experienced a couple of other crowdsourcing platforms before I came upon Reflic. So my experience with those other platforms left me a little bit skeptical, but once I got started on Reflic, the skepticism was gone. So I still do some work on the side. I have a contract with a global industrial organization, but in my spare time, I work on Reflic, and like Eric, I'm glad I came across it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Tremendous experience, and we're glad to have you work on our platform. Marzette, as the Director of Operations and Recruiting at one of the most successful healthcare recruiting agencies in Chicago, we would love to sort of hear your background, what drove you to recruit, and also what drove you to join our platform and build this partnership between your agency and Reflic.
Sure. I've been in the field for 10 plus years, and I first started out at a company. It was a regular company, nothing special, but they had what's called an employee referral program. That's where you might have a friend. They might be a good fit for the job. You'll send their name into human resources, and if they hire them, you'll get paid. And they used to pay us $500 for each person. Now, I'm very loving and very helpful, so I would just help anyone out anyway without expecting anything in return. But the fact that they did give something in return, and when I started experiencing that, I just thought it was the greatest thing, creating a win-win situation for people, helping them win and helping the company win. And the third win is us getting paid. So I like that win too, but I'm just very helpful, and I would do it for free. And I actually made it to my 5 years at that company, and I was thinking, okay, um, you know, what would I like to do now? What's my next path? And it just so happens that another employee with the company was doing recruiting, healthcare recruiting, part time in the evenings. And so we connected. She introduced me to her vice president, and I had never done recruiting before, but they felt I had skills that were transferable. And then I just had a passion, just a general passion in life, I guess, that they could feel. So they brought me in and trained me, and I stayed with that first company for maybe about 8 months. And it actually changed ownership, and when it changed ownership, I started looking for a new opportunity, and I ended up getting an opportunity as a corporate recruiter, and another VP brought me in, and we were actually the startup division in healthcare for a larger staffing company that had been around for a while, but they just never did healthcare. And one day they literally brought our division into the conference room, and they were like, "We're shutting down the division, and we're letting you all go." And at that point, me and the vice president that hired me, we decided to start our own company. And we actually started our company on the side, but we actually went to another established company and started their recruiting division. But more importantly, we said we will start our own, so we will never be in a position again where someone can take away our livelihood. And so that's when we started um, building our own company, which led into the current company. And we just happened to come across Reflick. And soon as we saw Reflick, we knew we had become a part of Reflick because we can clearly see how beneficial Reflick is. Um, just randomly came across it on the internet, but it was we feel that there was no accident and that we have a purpose to be working with Reflick. So we really like Reflick, and we will continue to work hard and smart with Reflick.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Marzette, for taking the time to come to our webinar and to present that story. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience could really relate to that, as well as talking to us about how you built your business. So I want to start off with you, Marzette, specifically about the productivity of your recruiters. So you did mention when we talked offline about your sales team that you once had. Could you tell us, do you feel like you are being more productive while recruiting full time as an agency versus breaking your day to day between sales and recruiting? How much more productive are you and your recruiters now than you would have been if you had to develop your own business opportunities?
Well, we think Reflick is one of the best things that could have happened to the industry because it saves time from having you to, as a company, to go out and recruit business, and you're able to just focus on closing the business that's already in front of you. So I think it's one of the best things that could have happened to the industry with Reflick coming along because we actually have had a business developer on staff and that has called around to different companies. And companies are now moving away from direct relationships and moving towards a platform like Reflick. So it's just perfect that Reflick happened to come to us because our business developer literally had been calling different companies trying to get contracts, and he was being turned down. So it's in essence even better for us because we don't have a business developer now. We don't need one to call around to different companies because we have Reflick.
Cool. Thank you so much, Marzette. It's always good to hear your voice talk to us about how the platform has benefited your business so much. So thank you for that. We talked about the numbers, right? When we were talking about Reflick, we talked about the new employers joining the platform every day. We have a pretty large placement fee on the platform every month. $2 million in total. We currently have over 250 employers, including many Fortune 250 companies. But I think our audience would want to dig into the experience, what it feels like to work on Reflick, what the day-to-day is like. So I have three sort of big picture topics, and we can break down each one, and we can have a sort of quick conversation about each. So the one thing I want to talk about is the quality of employers. So if we could start with Eric, I remember in our conversations this came up quite frequently. Could you talk to us about the quality of employers? Could you talk to us about the quality of employers on the Reflick platform and how it sort of compares with the overall world outside of Reflick, the feedback and the quality of feedback and how timely the feedback is?
Absolutely. This is a business of communication. Whether you're in a talent acquisition or an agency setting, for you as a fulfillment channel to optimize your performance, you need communication. Things change, sometimes on a moment's notice. And there is oftentimes a breakdown of one shape, form, of another from that communication channel, from the hiring entity to the fulfillment entity. Reflick does a very good job, and my kudos to the account managers. If they're on the call, I want to thank you for that. In transitioning information, updates, salary changes, requisition changes, skills changes, and this has been across the board. You guys do a fantastic job in doing that. So that is what I would call a quality requisition. Because yes, we all need to be agile. Yes, we're in the business of basically marketing human capital, which can be a little unpredictable sometimes. But I think from, again, being experienced in the agency side, the talent acquisition side, I've also had some experience in cloud sourcing platforms. You guys really, high five. Thank you. So getting that information out to your recruiters, whether it's emails, whether it's the weekly calls, and other methods, the transitioning of that information is done quite well.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for the kind words. Unfortunately, our account management team isn't on the call, but I will definitely communicate your praise to them, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. So, Eric mentioned our account management team. Our account management team works very closely with our recruitment community. And if to the audience, if you do decide to sign up today, you'll notice the kind of enthusiasm and vigor that they work with. I want to move to Jennifer. Jennifer has been working on the platform for a while now, and she has definitely, I believe, worked on with multiple clients. So Jennifer, could you talk to us about the clients that work on the platform, how they compare with other clients that you've worked with outside the platform?
Yeah, first I think about the timeliness of the information. That's key in what we're doing here. I've found that the clients are timely in their communication, whether it be moving a candidate forward or declining a candidate and then eliminating them from the process. I also appreciate, and this is kind of what I appreciate about the client and Reflick as well, but as recruiters, we like to be in control. You think about crowdsourcing and feel like you lose some of that control, and that may equal losing some key information that you need to conduct a successful search. With the ability to pull up the intake call and participate, and I'm using the finger quotes there, and participate in that recorded intake call, I don't feel like I've lost that information. I feel well informed and capable of speaking, at least semi-intelligently for me, to a candidate about the client that Reflick represents. So I've found high quality and in the clients, and a very controlled process, which I alluded to earlier during the intro, that does not always exist when dealing with a corporation.
Understood. Makes a lot of sense, Jennifer. We've definitely talked about the webinars, and I think Eric's recruiter success story that's on our blog post. We dig in very deeply into the webinars and how it helps recruiters understand the client better, understand the requisition better. So thank you for bringing that up, and we will definitely talk about that in about 30 seconds. I want to sort of turn the tables over to Marzette. Marzette, as an executive at one of the at a very niche healthcare agency, what do you think about the employers on our platform? Could you talk to us about the experience that you had? What do you normally look for in an employer, and how does it compare to what you've seen on the Reflic platform?
I feel Reflic is allowing us to work with some the best employers that we can work with, the kind of employers that we had dreams of working with when we went to start our agencies. For instance, GSK. GSK does not like having relationships with agencies. And by working with Reflic, that allows us to work with the client. GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, pharmaceutical company for all those that may not know. One of the best pharmaceutical companies in America. And we wouldn't have access to work with GSK if it were not for Reflic. So Reflic is allowing those kind of opportunities to work with employers that most likely we wouldn't get a chance to work with, and is doing it in a timely manner, which is important. So even when uh, sometimes in the past when you went to develop relationships, it can take a while to put that relationship in place. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, longer. It's been longer at times. And Reflic, because they'll be doing the business developing for you, will be able to bring that business to you in faster than you would be on your own. Definitely. So not only does it give you access to quality employers you would most likely not have access to, but it also gives you access to them in a timely manner. And speed is always key because the faster we can get business in, the faster that we can obtain placements, and the faster we can generate revenue.
Cool. Thank you so much, Marzette. Every time you talk about our platform and our employers, it always puts a smile on the account manager's face, because they are sort of the Reflic face of the client. So thank you so much for your kind words. I want to visit a topic that Jennifer brought up, the topic of webinars. We do provide a webinar for each client as well as each job that's covered on the platform. I sort of want to begin with Eric, because Eric actually his entire we have recruiter success stories on our website, on our blog. We actually have done a blog post for Eric, Jennifer, and Marzette. And Eric's blog post or success story revolves around webinars and the importance of webinars. So Eric, if you want to take a second and maybe briefly explain your experience on these calls, and sort of how it helps you recruit better on the Reflic platform.
Okay. Most recruiters, especially if they come from an agency side, tend to have a feeling that meetings are a waste of time. There's like a natural gut reaction to that, and me included. However, these weekly seminars that are conducted are, is the other case. What do I mean by that? So what happens here, guys, is the organization goes through the open roles, gives hints what's really hot and what's hot, nuances, updates, and there is a perennial allowance for questions and requested feedbacks with, again, reverting, and my kudos to the account managers with with their knowledge of their, which can be wide-ranging client base. It's been my experience in a lot of meetings that I've had on the agency side that there's a lot of I don't knows. That has not been the case here. So the bottom line is, you will get what you give into it. And the weekly meetings, what they do is it's a guaranteed informative channel to, very pertinent information of roles that the team should be focusing on. And they do stay within their, I don't know if it's earmarked to an hour or a half hour, but I don't think it's exceeded 30 minutes, right? Which is a good thing.
Cool. Thank you so much, Eric. Jennifer, so you did mention the intake calls, and I think you mentioned something popping up when you look at the job description. That's the job insights, right? And it sort of, as you know, provides detailed information about the job, information that wouldn't be available on the job description, information that our account managers have sort of gleaned from the client. Can you walk us through that, the job insights, your experience with the job insights, your experience with webinars or intake calls? Could you help us out understand your experience?
Sure. Yeah, I for myself think that an intake call with a hiring manager or with the client is critical. Like you mentioned, there is information in the manager's head that you're not going to see on the job description. I have learned the value proposition. Why would a person want to take this job? And the value proposition is there. I've learned what companies have what companies people have come from who have been successful in that type of position, what companies not to recruit from because of a professional relationship or maybe a customer or a client of theirs. I think at one point or with one of the webinars or the intake calls, I learned that there may be some flexibility in the compensation range and what that flexibility was. So like you said, again, information that you're not going to see on the job description, which will allow you to really the candidate will really feel that you have your own personal relationship with the client.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and again, if anyone wants to learn more about the job insights section or about webinars, feel free. I think Jennifer and Eric's stories are up, and we will get to some of your questions later on. So feel free to type in any questions you have about these things or any other questions you may have for the panelists, for Eric, Jennifer, or Marzette in the question box, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. If you could hold on for a couple more minutes, we'll talk to you in about that time when we get to the Q&A section. Okay, so I want to take a moment to address any questions that people may have. So thanks everyone for attending this webinar. As soon as we end the webinar here, you'll have an opportunity to finish a brief survey. We would love to learn how we can improve this panel discussion for you and provide you with any other content that you may need. If you have any questions, please email us at info@replik.com. We do have a few questions coming in that our panelists can help us answer, as well as anything that I can help you guys answer as well. So the first question is, how much does it cost to use Replik as a recruiter? Replik is completely free to use for recruiters. If you want to go ahead and sign up right now, it's replik.com/sign up, and you sign up as a recruiter, and you can get started on working on jobs immediately. One question that we sort of answered in our panel discussion is, what type of clients are hiring new employees on Replik? We have, as the panelists described, we have large enterprises who are on the Fortune 500 list. They're hiring immediately on the platform. These are large enterprises that operate in a variety of industries, from technology to manufacturing, financial services to retail goods and services. And we also have hundreds of medium-sized enterprises and small businesses hiring every day on our platform. Let's see, another question. What type of job requisitions are available on Replik? I think that Eric and Marzette really hit this home. Replik has job requisitions for roles across functions and industries, including information technology, management, consulting, business development, sales, accounting and finance management, and more. These jobs are direct hire. Temporary and contract positions aren't currently available on the platform. I think this is a question that we can have our panelists answer. So if Eric or Jennifer or Marzette, you want to just step in, we can probably start off with Jennifer. Could you talk about your sort of how you find candidates, the job portals that you use currently to find candidates on the platform?
I currently use LinkedIn and have been very successful in my searches within LinkedIn. So, nothing more to say, I guess. Just I've exclusively used LinkedIn since I've been with Replik.
Makes a lot of sense. Usually the best ones say there's not much to it, right? There's no secret sauce. Eric, no I remember you telling me that there is no secret sauce when I asked you for a secret sauce. How do you source, Eric? Sorry about that. Eric, are you with us?
Yep. All right. So, in regards to sourcing, because my niche is technology, it's one of my core competencies and when I tend to gravitate towards. And I have subscriptions. The prime tools that I use are, like Jennifer said, LinkedIn, Dice. I have a subscription to Dice as well. What I would, if given a choice, it's all about where you put your efforts in. So you can put the efforts, you're gonna get the results. Period. End of story. LinkedIn has a bit more transparency on what are the hotter, ready to go candidates. Probably better than any of the other traditional websites out there. I think it's also it's quite costly though, so that's the flip side. But the tendency would be to go to LinkedIn first and Dice.
Makes a lot of sense. So LinkedIn definitely seems to be a pretty big tool that both of you use. Eric uses a few more job boards. Thank you, you guys. Turning it over to Marzette. Marzette, as a niche healthcare agency, what is your go-to when it comes to sourcing?
Well, we use LinkedIn, and there's paid and ways you can use it for free. Then we also use, first of all, let me just say we have a pretty extensive database. So whenever we get a job, we first like to see who we have in our database and recycle those candidates. So that's ideally how we like to begin. But let's say we don't find anyone in our database, we might post a job ad, and we'll use places like JobSpider, Flex Jobs, Post Jobs Free, Snag a Job, Job Site, Job Inventory.
Makes a lot of sense, Marzette. So a couple of other questions that are coming in involve feedback, how quickly feedback comes in. I think that we've talked about this. The feedback, I think Eric and Jennifer had mentioned, comes in a timely manner. Eric, do you have anything else to say about the feedback in terms of how timely it is?
24 to 72 hours, depending on the customer and the position of where the candidate stands in his or her job search.
Cool. Thanks, Eric. Jennifer, a question that we have, and I think you can answer pretty well, is in terms of the activity of employers. How active do you think our employers are, Jennifer?
Oh my gosh, I get so excited. I am so excited to answer that question. And three of you, this is a conversation that you and I had a while back. I mentioned earlier that I've used some crowdsourcing platforms before, and quoting what I said in our conversation, I felt like I was sending candidates into a black hole. I didn't know, I didn't feel that there were actually people behind the platform, that I didn't know if a client ever saw the resume. If they did see the resume, I never had any feedback as to their level of interest. And absolutely not the case with Reflick. You know that there are people behind the platform. You guys are accessible to us. And I always get feedback within a day or two.
Awesome.
So it's really refreshing after the other experiences I had.
Cool. Yeah, I remember our conversation, and it was excellent. It was great to hear that. And if anyone wants to take a deeper dive into Jennifer's experience with employers and getting feedback and seeing a lot of traction, feel free to go on our blog. It's reflick.com/blog. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. Great to hear your nice words. I have a quick question for Marzette. Almost the same thing. Could you talk to us about, as an agency, managing your recruiters and how it works with Reflick? How is it easy to manage your few recruiters underneath you on the platform?
Oh yes, very easy. I actually feel that Reflick is a perfect platform for small agencies like ours.
Do you find it simple to manage your recruiters, to assign job requisitions and that kind of a thing? Could you walk us through your quick day-to-day?
Sure. So it starts with taking a larger account of what needs to be done and to prioritize those things. So usually prioritizing is, okay, what new jobs came in that we have to work on, what candidates do we have to respond to, things like that. So that's the first thing, is to take account what needs to be done today and prioritize it. What emails to candidates that need to be returned. So um, it's a prioritization, and it's every day is a new day how we might prioritize. So for instance, it might be a candidate that needs an interview scheduled, so we might schedule that interview, or we see a new job, we may need to jump on that new job right away. So it just depends, but usually it's a combination of recruiting as well as responding to clients and candidates.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for that answer, Marzette. It's great to take some time. It's great that you take some time out of your busy schedule to speak with us, as it is for Eric and Jennifer. Again, Ed, who is one of our account managers, were like, "Are you sure you want to take Eric and Jennifer and Marzette's time out of making money? It's bad for both. It's bad for business." But I'm glad you guys took some time off and spoke with us. Thanks everyone for your questions. Keep them coming. We are answering them as quickly as we can offline. I certainly I found our recruiters' answers to be insightful. Hope you had too. So moving right along. I just want to say before, we close out the webinar, I'd like to ask you guys to go to reflect.com/sign up. Click the Create Recruiter account. You can add up to 10 new jobs to your work list today. And once again, after the webinar, you will have the opportunity to fill out a quick survey so we get to know who you are, how we can help you out better with content or within our platform. This will allow us to improve panel discussions in the future, content, and the platform itself. So thanks again, and hope to work with you soon. Thanks, Eric, Jennifer, and Marzette. You guys have been a huge help, and look forward to speaking with you guys shortly after this webinar.